A lot of people ask me, what's the secret to building shoulders after the age of 40? And I think really it comes down to you need to be okay with doing certain exercises and knowing when not to do certain exercises. Longevity and injury prevention, really, or if you are recovering from injuries or surgeries, the warm-up for shoulders is crucial because you're going to want to make sure you're warming up the rotator cuff and you need to make sure you're warming up the rhomboids. All right, so what I'm doing here, reverse fly. Once I hit failure, full range of motion, then what I'm doing is turning into more of a variation of a row. So I'm keeping it in tight and I'm just literally doing the row here, focusing on that peak contraction of the rear delts. Something that I think the rear delts are kind of hard to feel contract fully, and this movement really, you feel it, flushes a lot of blood into that area, so highly recommend you try it. I think there's a lot of nuance involved in training shoulders, so you don't want to go extremely heavy because then your traps are going to take over. For the most part, with a lot of the shoulder stuff, once your upper traps start taking over, you're not targeting the muscles you're looking to target. So here is finding a weight that feels appropriate, where I can pull full range of motion, squeeze those shoulder blades together. That's really important. I think it's a piece that most people overlook. So the arms are up here. I'm just making sure I'm not shrugging my shoulders up to do the movement, because then the upper traps are going to be really engaged. So keeping those upper traps more relaxed, that's what I'm thinking of mentally when I'm doing the movement. You see a lot of people do movements where they're hunched over like this, they'll put their head forward. You're just affecting the curvature of your spine in a manner in which you're going to be hitting different muscle groups. So everything I try to do, keeping the posture very neutral, never moving my neck too far forward, too far back. Science will say, okay, you put your hands here, it should target this area. Well, if you're not feeling it target that area, try out different hand positions. This one I go high because I actually really feel my rear delts at that. But if someone's trying the movement and they're not feeling their rear delts with their hands up high, experiment. Find the position where you feel the movement and you feel the muscles contract, and that's going to be the best position for you. I think a lot of people focus just on isolating, like, oh, we're working rear delts here. That's your only focus. I think this is a valuable movement right here to isolate that entire chain. So you're activating the rear delts, definitely your rhomboids, lower and mid traps. And everything we do nowadays, we're internally rotated. So you really want to maybe overemphasize working that whole portion of the upper back, because for the most part, they're probably overstretched and a little weak. Here's a pro tip to add to your next workout here. You're doing the reverse flies. Once you hit failure, full range of motion, go into your partials. Once you can no longer do partials, try to just bring the weight out as far as you can. Hold that contraction there. Just fight it until you can't hold it any longer. 10 to 15 seconds. It's gonna really light up your rear delts. For side delts, I like to start out that portion of the workout with a machine. The machines are going to be an interesting resistance. Some machines you feel more tension throughout different ranges of motion. This machine's great because it allows me to play around with where the tension is in the range of motion. But what I like to do on the machines is kind of a transition movement. So I like to just really control the movement, slow and controlled, slight peak contraction hold at the top, and then I do higher reps here. So I'm trying to get as much blood into the muscle right at the beginning of the workout. And then when I go into those movements like dumbbell side laterals, my shoulders just feel much better, and I get a better mind-muscle connection that way. One thing with the form on this machine here, you'll notice, is I'm not leaning all the way forward against the pad. I actually lean back a little bit, so that allows me to bring my arms forward just slightly. It just puts the shoulder joint in a more optimal position. Feels much better on my shoulders that way. So with the cables, a movement like this, you have really continuous tension. This is where I really leverage and focus on those negatives. So controlling that negative on the way down, maybe 3-4 seconds, keeping the reps around 8 or so. And this is what I find works best with the cables. I'm always aiming for about here, never directly out to the side. When I go directly out to the side, I feel my trap engage pretty immediately. So bringing that arm forward, giving it a nice path where the shoulder feels like it's in a good position. With the dumbbell side lateral, super important because of the resistance profile of the movement. Hold that peak contraction at the top. That's where all that resistance really hits, and you're gonna feel a really strong contraction of the side delt. Same thing, because of gravity, you're probably getting resistance from top of the movement to about here or so. on the side delt. So really important, especially if you have a hard time connecting and feeling your side delts contract. Hold that peak contraction 1 to 2 seconds on these. We're just trying to up the intensity of the movement. So that's what I'm doing here is I'm alternating reps, starting at 1 on each side, going up to doing 4 on each side. And then after that, then I'll go into 5 reps, both arms at the same time to really push the muscle to failure. And I found that's really helped to round out my delts. I think that's another piece with side laterals. You see it a lot where people train too heavy. You're lifting too heavy on the side lateral, it's gonna be all traps. You're actually not really putting much tension on the side delt. So lighten up that weight. I mean, I know when I was younger, I just thought lifting as heavy as possible was the way. I would wing around 50-pound dumbbells on the side laterals. I don't even go up above maybe 40 pounds. One thing I've done too as I've gone into my 30s and 40s is switch the front raises to a Scaption raise. So the front raise, traditional front raise is here. Scaption raise is gonna be more here, more in the scapular plane. So it just puts the head of the humerus and the shoulder in a better alignment. So you're not gonna get, like I spoke about earlier, that impingement in the shoulder. Just feels much better, and I feel a much stronger contraction of the front delt when I do it that way. Holding it at the top till I feel that contraction and then controlling on the way down. As I've gotten older, it's really about like weighing the risk versus reward of lifting heavy, pushing through pain with shoulders. I find it's just best to err on the side of caution. If your shoulders aren't feeling right, if you're feeling a pinch in your shoulders, if you're feeling something grind or clicking in your shoulders, try to change the position of the movement to find where you don't feel any discomfort, or if you can't, just move on to a different movement. It's just really not worth it. The one big key with longevity is just staying consistent with the training, and if you're gonna put yourself in a position where you're injured and you're not gonna be able to train, you're just gonna be setting yourself back. When I'm training shoulders, I put the shoulder presses at the end of the workout. You've pre-fatigued all the different heads of the shoulders, so you don't need to lift as heavy. It's just gonna limit the impact on the joints. But quite honestly, some days my left shoulder acts up on me from time to time, and if it doesn't feel right, I just scrap doing the exercise. And I think you need to be okay with saying, okay, this exercise doesn't feel right today, you're gonna drop it from the workout, because what is the risk versus reward is not there. You're pushing through actual pain or discomfort that is gonna potentially lead to your shoulder flaring up more inflammation in the shoulder. So I think it's, as you get older, like it's okay dropping exercises that don't feel good. And maybe next week it feels fine, you do some body work or whatever it may be and the shoulder feels better. So being comfortable with that, saying, okay, you know what? I hit all 3 heads of the shoulders already. What am I really gaining by pushing through and doing this particular exercise?